All right, and we are back. Justin Parnell, Andy Mangold, calling the action for the Uber Bears Artifact Cube. Round 2, we watched Sam Black win in round 1 in dramatic fashion.
So dramatic.
After getting game 2 taken right out from under his clutches, both his clutches.
Absolutely.
Sam Black fires back with a surprise win in game 3, barely hanging on at 1 life.
In this matchup, we have Sam Black's opponent, Ellis, on what we're calling green-white control. Might seem strange to those of you that are just tuning in, but in this cube, which is all about artifacts, green-white has by far the best removal of any of the color combinations. In Ellis's main deck, we have Collector Oof. We have multiple Reclamation Sage variants, including Knight of Autumn, Manglehorn. We have all kinds of ways to deal with all the artifacts coming out of Sam Black's deck. So Sam going to be basically threatened now with having all of his key pieces removed, which is very different from the dynamic we saw in the last match.
And looks like our players are ready to go. Sam, maybe not mulliganing. Ellis looks like she's mulligan down to 6. And not sure if Sam's on 7. Either way, Ellis is on the play here.
That's an Eater of Virtue we see coming out from Ellis. Bone Splitter, but incredibly complicated.
Yeah. And we see again Sam with the turn 1 Zabaz.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking, Justin, I'm not sure what the ideal opening sequence is from Sam in this matchup. Almost anything he plays is going to be exposed to removal from Ellis. We see Mishra's Factory coming down there from Ellis, that creature land.
Mishra's Factory, a nice one because it can dodge that artifact removal if Ellis has it. That hits a lot of different stuff. Is this a Baloth? A Baloth
That's
trap?
a Baloth Cage Trap right there.
Baloth
That
Cage
is a
Trap.
2-mana 4/4, if I'm not mistaken.
That's okay.
That's what you get
That's
for
not bad.
playing artifacts.
Yeah. Why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
What were you thinking?
Now, Steel Overseer and Zabaz with that modular, a good combination of threats, but we're going to see an Eater of Virtue on a 4/4. It takes 6.
That takes 6. Casual 6 on turn 3 of the game. And I am...
Another Forest, and
I believe that is... I do not recall the name of the card. I believe it's a 2-1 with protection from artifacts.
oh, that's Nakatl Savage? Maybe?
Survey says it is Nakatl Savage. Yes, 2-1 protection from artifacts.
So, you know, no big deal there. 2/1 protection from your whole deck, plus a 6/4.
okay.
I would say that
The beatdown
Sam is
the
under
beatdown
some
on.
pressure. So
Yeah, the beatdown
we
is
call
on.
it a control deck, not necessarily a slow control deck, but now Sam playing out a bunch of cards, Ellis getting to shop that removal around and figure out what she wants to remove most.
Monoscallion normally would be pointing at the 1 toughness creature. Not going to be the case here as the Savage
Can't do
saying,
that.
Yeah, can't touch me if you're an artifact.
That's a brush land, I believe, from Ellis there, getting white mana for the first time this game.
And this is an aggressive start.
I mean, take 8 or start chump blocking.
And we are going to see 2 counters on Zabaz, which means we're going to get a 3 modular somewhere.
Which is very relevant.
It is. And, of course, going to go on the Monoscallion as it can remove counters to deal some damage at the cost of 1 mana.
So just get up to 4 mana. You can get rid of that 2 mana card your opponent played that's been beating your face in this entire game.
Yeah, all it takes
Mhm.
is 4 counters in your entire turn. And looks like Elix and Sam are making sure that modular was modulared correctly. And
Looks like it was not. Maybe
like it was
Zabaz not doubling its own, because it's not in play anymore. Maybe that static effect is not going to double its own modular. Only for other modular threats.
Asika's Chariot. That's a good one.
Now, Ellis really demonstrating
That's
that
a good one.
maybe doesn't even have to bother removing Sam's threats with the right curve. This is a terrifying...
She's removing his threats.
Yes.
And by virtue of attacking and forcing jump blocks.
That is one way to do it. Cycling through that chromatic sphere, please give me something, anything. How about a 4-mana 2/2, Arkham Daxon?
You know, I don't think that is exactly what Sam wants, but can trade with Ellis's 2-drop.
That's something that can block that otherwise, that's a true name nemesis on the other side of the battlefield, except for Arkham Daxon.
Arkham Daxon, one of the only things, would you pay for to have a removal spell for that?
Nakatl Savage.
We might be finding out. I think Sam is considering the play, but probably doesn't want to have to admit to himself that that might be what needs to happen.
Sam has already played land for turn, so does not have mana. Oh, no, maybe the mana off of the sphere. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Good point. Thank you. No, instead, just going to take out that Baloth.
The play that you had identified.
That's a lot of resources to get rid of your opponent's 2-drop, is what I'm going to say there.
Yeah, and it's going to be... I mean, look, I'm good. Good for Sam.
Justin, I am no longer going to make any suggestion about who I think may or may not win a game, given the outcome of our last match, but let's just say that Ellis is in a commanding position right now.
And that's sometimes you just have to use your entire turn. Sam
taking that token out of the graveyard,
pointing out that Eater of Dead removes things, and saying your token can't be in your graveyard because of Eater of Dead. And yes, that is correct for a number of reasons.
Really aggressive line here. Ellis opting to animate that Mishra's Factory, equip it instead of spending per mana developing the board further.
I love this because
I think it's the correct line for sure.
We have an Asika's Chariot, so
it's a lot coming into the red zone,
and we got a new cat coming down as it's being copied by the Asika's Chariot.
Now this is really interesting.
10 damage.
Here's what
across the line.
I'm going to start putting my mind already on the next game here, Justin. If Ellis is able to get out of this match, showing Sam almost none of her copious artifact removal, that could have a substantial effect on how Sam does or does not sideboard.
And probably not in Sam's favor.
Yeah, so I mean, again, just to recap here, we have a Foundation Breaker, we have an Uktabi Orangutan, we have a Knight of Autumn, we have a Pest Infestation, we have a Manglehorn. All of these are cards that remove one or more artifacts in addition to providing other value, putting bodies into play.
I would say that Sam is likely familiar enough with this cube. That's a smuggler's copter. This one's all but over.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up and start thinking about sideboarding.
I think Sam is smart enough, knowing going into game 2 what the green deck is doing.
Yeah,
I think Sam's going to be familiar enough with the context of this cube.
Oh, now, I mean, a good play in a otherwise completely hopeless position, but we see the power of Thieving Skydiver, and honestly, I would
kind of, but it doesn't really do anything.
Well, honestly, I wonder if I even want to show Ellis my Thieving Skydiver in this first round here. I'm not sure that it's worth trying to scrape together some kind of something here. I mean, I don't know what's happening.
Well, Sam going to be able to chump block. I think the Thieving Skydiver might have been the only play from Sam, so I might as well take the.
Now we get to see a little bit of that removal.
Pest
Sam
Infestation.
scooping it up in response to that Pest Infestation. Yeah. I do want to correct myself. I did miss one of the 7 Reclamation Stage variants. There's also a Leaning Relic Warder in this deck.
Thank goodness.
So,
thank God you were here.
This is going to be, I think, an extremely uphill battle for Sam Black, who has, in fact, leaned into what the cube says it does. It's an artifact cube. I'm drafting an artifact deck. And Ellis coming to the table saying, what if you don't have any artifacts?
What if I also leaned into the fact that I hate artifacts and I don't want them to be around anymore?
I'm not even sure how I might speculate that Ellis could sideboard, given that her main deck configuration is so good against Sam Black's deck. Both what she's seen and what she might expect could be in the rest of the 40.
Maybe Ellis's time could be better used, like stretching a little bit, doing some
meditating,
breathing,
meditation
exercises. Because I don't think the changes are going to really occur in the deck. And she's just looking through her tokens, just like, hey, what can I possibly do?
So, Justin, are we looking here for Ellis to stumble on mana, mulligan to 4 or 5? What are the ways Sam can actually win this game? I'm looking at Sam's deck. We know it well. We watched him draft it.
It's got to be stumble on mana.
I think it's got to be
a
big stumbling, I think, out of Ellis for Sam to have a chance. Anything Sam is going to set up, it's all got artifact type lines. So there's nothing Sam can really do to put pressure on Ellis that is not going to involve artifacts. And Ellis's main deck is just absolutely hostile to anything with that artifact type line.
As a reminder, that was a mull to 6 for Ellis.
Yeah, didn't matter.
Wasn't close.
To say it didn't matter is an understatement.
Yes. And one piece of artifact removal at the end of the game on a mull to 6.
Yeah.
So
only one of the many pieces.
If we think more are coming, it's gonna take the lack of mana development.
Yeah.
Rather than the lack of card availability, because if Sam isn't able to close the game quickly when that stumbling is happening, ultimately those cards are going to show up.
Ellis going so far, it's not even main deck 2 of her artifact hate cards in her pool, just because she's already got plenty. You know what? I'm not worried about artifacts. I don't need any more removal in the artifact cube.
Sam I mean, there's not a lot you can do. Maybe put in some of your interaction. You do have access to.
I think you definitely do. I mean, I'm bringing in anything playable that does not have the word artifact in the type line. Yeah. That is what I'm bringing into this matchup because I just want anything that is not going to be exposed to all that interaction.
Maybe Whirler Rogue could actually be a good sideboard here.
I'm absolutely bringing Whirler Rogue because I'm happy for my opponent to point their removal at my 1/1 token that came as a side effect of the card I played.
Maybe this is time for Reckless Fireweaver to not have to stick the artifacts, but just play them.
I like that thought too, Justin.
Yeah.
And more than that, I like whatever Sam has come up with because, again, we've seen in round one, we've seen in the draft and deck building that Sam is a very inventive deck builder and player. So if there is a line to be found, if there is a build that is going to have a chance against this green-white deck, I trust Sam to find it more than almost anybody.
Yes. Good news for us, but bad news for Sam because it's going to be necessary to escape this round.
Absolutely.
Unscathed. This is tough. Sam's on the play here. Will be the last time in this round where that will be the case no matter what.
Yeah, you're going to have to win game 3 on the draw if you manage to somehow scrape by a victory here.
So, you've played this cube before.
I have.
When we have a green-white control deck like this, which is so hostile to all the other decks in the environment, what is beating this? What type of deck is beating this?
That's a great question, honestly. I almost wish we could get Anthony Adams, Uberbear, the designer of this cube over here, to talk us through it. I'm sure that this is something he's given a lot of thought to. My first inclination is some of the more aggressive decks that don't rely as heavily on artifacts. Your gut True Zealot decks. If things like that might have a chance to go under this. I also didn't see in my pod, and I'm not sure if looking at the cube list, if there is anything really resembling a more traditional control deck with counter magic removal. If you can play a deck that doesn't have targets for Ellis's removal spells, that makes Ellis's deck a lot worse because the reason these cards are so good is because they're removing a lot of artifacts. If you can somehow present another deck that has has very few targets for that removal, it's going to give you an advantage in that matchup for sure.
Yeah, we have a lot of Mirrodin block limited cards present with artifacts, and if those cards out of context, when there's not artifacts present, just look like 2 1s-for-1s.
I'm just sitting
Savage
here.
is a Goblin Piker on its worst day.
Justin, what does Sam do if Ellis just goes turn 2 Collector Oof? What do you do?
Lunch.
I mean, every single one of your threats, all of them I can think of, they all require activating an ability. It turns off almost everything your deck does, and how much interaction do you have for it?
None.
Well, here's what I want to see, Justin. I want to see Sam pull this out, obviously. I want to see how you get around this, and I want to see a game 3.
I want to see Sam pull this game out.
Yes.
I want to see a game 3. I just want more magic.
Ellis putting on a clinic in game 1, showing us just how devastating a green-white deck can be in this environment. And it must be said, we were talking about all this removal. We barely saw any of it. We saw one Pest Infestation. Instead, we just saw Baloth Cage Trap, a huge Punisher card against artifact decks, and we saw just a curve out, a disgusting curve out.
All right, we have a
Turn 1 Utopia Sprawl.
That's a little bit of ramp. Steal the playback.
That's a mana fixing land on Sam Black's side. That Power
Depot.
Power Depot. Thank you.
Power Depot. One of my least favorite mechanics in all of Magic.
Yeah.
Counters on lands.
I can't blame you.
Hate them.
I was annoyed yesterday playing with my Blast Zone. Couldn't stack my lands on top of my Blast Zone because there's a dice on top of it. Now Sam also saying, hey, I can ramp 2. You're going to play a 3-drop on turn 2. Maybe I'll play a 5-drop on turn 3. Let's just see how this goes.
Yeah.
That's Pentad Prism coming down, I should say. That's going to allow Sam to potentially have that very temporary burst of tempo if he wants to play a big spell ahead of schedule. Another Forest. No Collector Roof. No Collector Roof. No Collector Roof. No Collector Roof.
You summoned it.
Sam, I'm sorry.
I will let Sam know.
I'm so sorry,
Commentary has done him dirty.
Commentary curse. Not even able to take the counters off that Pentad Prism. Effectively time-walking Sam almost. I mean, you get a land drop, you get a draw step, but you wasted your last turn playing a card that is now a dead. I mean, it's a sacrifice piece of sacrifice fodder, I guess, is the best you got.
Is it? For what?
A great question. How many cards in this deck sacrifice things that aren't artifacts?
For makeshift munitions.
We're all in on makeshift munitions, friends.
Not a good start though. Can't make the mana for makeshift munitions. You don't have a red.
We do see Tower of the Magistrate awful in this matchup. One of Sam's best cards in this matchup, a nigh unplayable. Hey, have this Grizzly Bear. At this Grizzly Bear.
You know what? A Grizzly Bear can block for now at least.
Yep.
I imagine that this Collector Oof not going to be tangling in combat too frequently.
I think it's a good strategy you've come up with it, Justin.
Yeah, thank you.
Will Ellis see the line of
Really?
not tangling with their 2-mana, my opponent can't play the game creature?
Really bold. And now we have our second white, and we have an Asika's Chariot.
Just a chariot. You know, just
and
let's just put a clock. Let's just put a clock in play.
She shrugs because she's like, oh, I can't activate it. But I still just have these 2 cats.
That's true. Yeah, you won't be able to crew that Asika's Chariot because of your own Collector Oof, but I think Ellis is probably fine with that.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Because then, eventually, maybe in an alternate timeline, Collector Oof won't stay on the board, and then you do just have an Asika's Chariot.
Right. If now Sam somehow finds an answer to Collector Oof, the next turn Ellis is going to be able to go a little nuts.
5-drop.
That's Verdurous Gearhulk.
Okay.
So put all these counters on the cats, maybe one on the Hulk. We'll see how Ellis decides to distribute these counters. Oh, we are just protecting that Collector Oof from any kind of burn damage. You definitely want to make those cats 3/3s so that they can't trade with that Monoskellion. And we are even just going to tangle with that Oof.
Casual 10.
We're going to tangle with that Collector Oof.
And casual 10 with 14 power on the board. Sam could be, again, I would suggest lunch as a better use of his time after this round.
Oh, we see a pretty dejected Sculpting Steel coming down. It
will
will
be
be
Asika's Chariot.
It will be an Asika's Chariot or a Verdurous Gearhulk. Looks like it's actually a Gearhulk.
Verdurous Gearhulk. Okay.
Putting a bunch of counters on a Monoskellion. Sam cannot presently
Ellis
activate.
is untapping really quickly. That is usually not a good sign.
I'm trying to think back to the draft and trying to imagine what Sam could have taken that would give him a better chance in this spot. 6 mana is not what you want to see. That is a Leonin Relic Warder. That is 2 Reclamation
Foundry.
Sages, 2 of the 7 we mentioned, and that'll be a scoop from Sam.
Yes. A
6-minute match thereabouts. I mean, that was,
demolition.
if you actually look at time in game, that was one of the fastest matches we've seen all weekend.
If you're playing this on Magic the Gathering Arena, that's 4 minutes.
We are showing the full range of what is possible in Cube. Our first match, a incredible big board state, back and forth slog with tiny little edges. And in this match, a total blowout.
Now, I do have good news for you, Andy. As a lover of Magic and a lover of Cube, there's a good chance we're going to be able to see our backup match.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a little more Magic, which is good for everybody. Now, we will be following Ellis into the finals. So we're going to watch a little bit of another match here in round 2 to keep the entertainment flowing. But we will get to see Ellis in the finals. I am really curious to see if anybody can bring something to the table that can answer this deck. This seems like one of the best green-white hate decks you could potentially draft from the pool of cards available in this cube.
Did Sam deal Ellis any damage? No.
Does it matter? Does it matter?
No.
I don't think it matters.
No.
I mean, Sam's deck isn't really even about dealing damage. It's about playing a bunch of cool artifacts with awesome activated. Oh no, a Collector Oof.
Yeah, you summon the Collector Oof.
Yeah, I think Sam is gonna have an earful for me for the commentator curse of mentioning Collector Oof too much. Maybe Anthony Adams, designer of this cube, will be watching this match in coverage and questioning if a 2-mana bear that says your opponent can't play the game is in fact appropriate for an environment like this.
So we may get the question answered because I said, what can beat this deck?
Yeah.
And you were not sure.
Is there some way that somebody can bring a deck drafted from another cube into the pod? Is that allowed, Justin?
Is that legal? I don't know.
Can we call a judge and see if that's something you can do?
Check the CubeCon rules.
Yeah.
This is looking like a monster of epic proportions for this specific cube.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I would do if I was in this seat. And I gotta say, it feels like it kind of feels like Sam got punished for doing what the cube ostensibly wants you to do. I mean, Sam has a sweet deck. I really like Sam's deck. It's doing all kinds of cool stuff, but absolutely stonewalled against that green-white control deck. I think if they play 100 games, Sam wins 5. 5 at best. That's about how often you're going to get mana screwed, basically.
Yeah, about 5% of the time. Yeah, and the crazy thing was, we saw one piece of anti-artifact interaction in each of those games.
Right, it only took one.
Now, Collector
I mean, the last turn we did see the Relic Warder and the Foundation Breaker, which I will say, unnecessary. Didn't even have to cast those cards, just really tightening it up and buttoning that game down immediately.
So we are just going to confirm whether we have a backup match or not.
While we're doing that, I do want to talk about one card I think is an interesting inclusion in this cube, because we saw a bunch of artifact hate there, which was pretty punishing. There's one piece of artifact hate which I think is especially interesting in this cube, and that's Kataki War's Wage. That's a card. It's a 2-drop. It's a 2/1 that taxes all artifacts by 1 on upkeep. It's a Tabernacle at Pendro Vale for all artifacts in play. And the reason I find that interesting is because even this green-white deck that is playing all the anti-artifact strategies still has a decent amount of artifacts. So you're still going to play that, but that symmetrical effect is going to come up sometimes. You are going to be taxing your own artifacts, which could be a problem.
So it looks like we are not going to have a backup match. So
my punishment for summoning the Collector Oof.
Yeah,
Commentary doesn't get a backup match.
Don't get
Commentary's been naughty.
Yeah, shame on you. So we're not going to get a backup match. So instead, what we are going to do is we are going to take a break, and we're going to drink in the domination that Ellis has put together.
I mean, congratulations to Ellis. What a deck she drafted.
Yes, absolutely.
Really a beast.
So we're going to take a quick break. Not sure how long. We obviously need to finish the rest of the rounds in the draft, even the players that did not win their first round, before we move on to round 3. So
don't go anywhere.
We will be back in just a minute with more CubeCon action with the Uber Bear Artifact Cube. Justin Parton, Andy Mangold coming up in just a moment.